Evening, everyone. We open with a threefer tonight from SpaceX in their quest to build a new Starship port. That's pretty entertaining. Deloitte, of all people, published a detailed analysis of building the lunar economy. Excuse me. Space Florida, the big state agency that won't, somehow got a $1.5 million grant from NASA. We'll try to explain that. A company called Ursa Major, a defense company, goes public in a $2.3 billion SPAC deal. So SPACs are back. A company called Leo Labs nailed a $20 million contract from Space Force for Scout Radar. NASA offers an inflatable heat shield for small sats. A Russian firm unveils a new type of engine for an ultralight launch vehicle. And a Polish startup intends to protect data center satellites with high-power microwave weapons. What could go wrong? All this and our guest, Michelle Hanlon. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. All right, as you know, this show is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our legendary pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better, investor-ready, and the best is yet to come. In addition, this podcast, which has become kind of a crown jewel of our activities, is largely supported by our listeners and fans like you. So just go to cscf.space/support and click that plain as day donate button. $10, 25, 50, 100 even is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but sure makes a big difference for us. And it's U.S. tax deductible. And to sweeten the deal, we have a special offer through the month of September. Donors will receive a free special report in their inboxes on the first 25 years of new space, how we went from nothing to 700 billion in the space of a single generation. Inspiring material. I wrote it myself. You're going to want this. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. And speaking of friends, my longest space friend, Michael Laine, who just got a new set of Borromean rings from Amazon, is here with us. Come on in, man.
Hey, how's things?
Okay. Just to preface this, I want to let you know, because I heard from Veronica Ann. And, she's not going to be with us in the audience this evening. I guess her father passed away a couple days back, and they're doing a wake all afternoon and evening today.
Gosh.
He's in the Phoenix area, so that's your time zone. So all our best and all our prayers to Veronica at this hard time. And, wanted to give her a shout out. Give her our love.
That's too bad. That's too bad.
Other than that, I'm developing a couple of videos and with my AI companions, one for Avialto and one for us, actually. I want to take that report I wrote and turn it into I want to turn it into a video, which I will then narrate.
It's a pretty great report. It really is. It really is quite interesting. I'm glad you're doing the animation. Was it easy or hard?
It's a little bit harder because I want to find some actual material with like people in it, not just doing the animated part.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll have some historical imagery in there that follows along the path.
Okay, cool, great.
That's how it's shaping up. And yeah, I'm all in on the book now. So
nice. How many pages is it now?
I figure it's going to be between about 300 by the time we're done.
Wow, right on.
I'll get you guys involved. There'll be parts I want you guys to pitch in. So
sure.
Expect that email sometime in the near future. How are you doing? What's going on? How's your mom?
I'm good. Mom's doing fine. No big deal there. She broke her foot. It's been a couple weeks now, so she's mostly healed.
Uh-huh.
She went to the county fair because it was veterans get in for free. So it's
Okay.
seniors, it's only $5, and veterans get in for free. So she went and she brought her veterans card. So she's doing her thing. It's kind of quiet. It's been last couple of weeks have been super busy. So it actually is pretty nice that this is a calm week for us. So yeah. Yeah, it's calm. It's calm. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
All
I always hate calm though. I think there's times I think I'm not doing enough. What am I missing?
right.
I can't have a calm week. No.
No, calm weeks are when I get stuff done. All the other stuff is a reaction, and calm weeks are when I choose what is next, the tactical and the strategic. So
yeah.
All right, let's get to it. What do you got?
Okay. The first one's
SpaceX, right?
Yeah. His first is really quick though. I mean, people most already know this, but I just had to put it out there for the link. SpaceX plans to build a second star-based spaceport in Louisiana, and they're committing $100 billion to that project. And it sits on the Gulf Coast in Vermilion Parish, west of New Orleans, and 10 hours from the company's existing star-based complex in South Texas. Construction starts next year, and the first Starship launch from there will take place in 2029.
Right.
So the Louisiana Economic Development Agency, however, has a more conservative timeline. It says construction will start by the end of 27, with initial operations expected in 2030. Be that as it may, of course, they still have to prove it'll fly in orbit and do all the things they needed to do, but the work has started. Now, that's just the basic story. Now, here's the fun part. The next one is
Sean, go ahead and put. Sorry, I jumped in there by accident. Sean, go first, and then I'll come in. I just want to show people where this place is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, wildlife advocacy groups are standing up against proposed waivers to federal regulations intended to expedite development. They see it as a potential environmental disaster in the making.
Yep.
Of course. And the Louisiana Wildlife Federation, the National Wildlife Federation, and the Pontchartrain Conservancy filed comments on regulatory changes and were very vehement in their arguments. These changes will remove entirely environmental requirements for the development, putting wildlife habitat, water, and coastal resources at risk. It sits within 136,000 acres of coastal marsh. It's among the most productive wildlife habitat on the continent. Mm-hmm. That's not an abstract thing. It's immediate and local that they wrote in the letter.
Yeah.
So that's going to create some interesting challenges.
I mean, you absolutely knew this was going to happen. It happened in California when they tried to expand their West Coast facility. It's happened in Florida. It's happened in Texas. 100% this was going to happen. I really do wonder if you just look at the timeline of the Trump administration's announcement. What was it? Friday last week, Wednesday last week, and then this announcement. The following week. That cannot be an accident, right?
Oh, I'm sure it is.
No way. That is super orchestrated.
That's too easy to guess.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a tinfoil hat guy to see that one.
Right. But I did. I looked it up because I wanted to know where this thing was. So I'm going to share that. I've lost my page here. Where's my page? So it is in the middle of nowhere, but one thing that was kind of underreported was that this habitat site was part of one of the big oil spills. I forget which one because they mentioned several, but this habitat site was a part of the oil spill money. So this whole area has already had a pretty major ecological disaster, and it was recovering from that when
Mhm.
SpaceX shows up, right? So
Yeah.
it's 50 miles away from the nearest town. It's 30 miles away from the nearest facilities. Um, so it is pretty far away from anything, and that's probably for the good. They do have to deal with the 2 wildlife refugees here, and there's a lot of fragile property in this area. So it's interesting. I think Tom Murata, we had him on the show. I think he operates out of Port Arthur, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty close. This is not very far away. That is their main. That's the main town. So
Yeah, but he
yeah,
can move. He wants to build these things on boats.
he
So if he
does.
has to move down the
Yeah.
coast a little bit, he could. The wildlife in those habitats cannot, however.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that's mildly, vaguely important.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, but here's the trifecta.
Right.
I love this. This is politics at its best, right? Louisiana politics. So the next thing on the Hill, the Louisiana governor who approved this thing is not concerned at all about any of it.
It's fine.
It's
10,000
Build it.
10,000 people with
It's like,
$100,000, $200,000 a year jobs. Yeah.
jobs? Are you kidding me? Effing jobs! Come on,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
he's bringing what $100 billion brings to this state.
Right.
We could build a dome over the whole state to keep out the hurricanes. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Generate more than 11,000 new job opportunities, including 3,000 direct and 8,000 indirect. And that's just during the kind of the construction phase. Operations, I mean, look what Starbase happened in Texas, right? Like,
Yep.
Yeah, the economic value of this is bonkers. 2, 3, 4x in economic return on top of the 100 million initially. Yeah. I am curious what Michelle has to say about this, since she's their next door neighbor. So, curious what that. All right, moving on, because we got a lot to cover.
Now you can just leave a link for this, I guess. Deloitte wrote a big report and published it about their projections for the future of the lunar economy and how it gets going and what the payoffs are and what kind of time frame. And I mean, the short version is they project the lunar economy could generate up to $566 billion in cumulative economic value through 2050. There are 6 core infrastructure systems required to operate on the moon, and that's a present value opportunity of about $282 billion. And they explore cislunar industries, national security, logistics, data services, resource utilization, propellant production, big thing, and space-based computing. Examines the implications for governments, investor space companies, and industries well beyond aerospace, which I'm sure we'll be discussing some with our guests this evening. And also consider how innovations can unlock new tech and capabilities for industries on Earth. It can also, as I will discuss with our guests later, create opportunities for total mayhem. And so we're going to be discussing that quite a bit. So that link takes you to just a description of the thing. If you scroll down past the description box that I just read for you, the summary, there's a button that says read the report, and you can get to the whole report. It's free, and then you can download the whole thing as a PDF. So
I got the link for the PDF right here. I'm going to post it.
Yeah, it's worth a look. It's worth a look.
It is. It's an interesting document. Goldman Sachs issued a report last week. All of this is coming out as part of the Small Sat conference. Oh, thanks, Sean. Thank you. Everybody's kind of issuing this. I like that Goldman Sachs said, hey, it's a big market. There's going to be more. They reinforced their $1.8 trillion by 2035 number, 2040 number. This one, this one was a little strange because they're looking all the way out to 2050, but they don't consider the big ideas. There's nothing in there about Mars. There's nothing in there
Right.
about orbit to orbit infrastructure. There's nothing about asteroid mining. No space-based solar power. None of the ideas. So it's a very uh, reduced scope picture, and it still comes out nearly $600 billion. So I was pretty
Right.
surprised.
So if we double their estimates for all the stuff that we know and talk about
Right.
every show,
Right. Yeah.
maybe that becomes more realistic. Somewhere
Yeah.
between that projection and what we think is right, the truth will ultimately lie. And
Yeah.
so, but the future looks bright no matter whose point of view you look at.
Yeah, I'm going to put up Dallas's comment here. Well written and important reference for what is needed and what could be produced. I read the main body today. Yep, pretty
Yep.
cool. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some cool stuff in there. Yeah. All right, moving on.
Okay, let's talk for a minute about the little agency that won't. In my view, I'm a big critic of Space Florida.
Yes,
I've
I know.
invited them multiple times to come to our business track and explain themselves, and they won't do it because, again, Florida has trouble with the entrepreneurial community establishing some kind of unified community.
Yeah.
Unlike Texas, unlike Colorado, let's say, even California, despite everybody fleeing, it's they've got a better sense of community than Florida does. And Space Florida, the one agency that's a semi-public agency that's in a position to actually take a stand on something like that and do something, never do. They just never do. They got their own shit that they do, and they don't care about the community. And so I'll go to that's a hill I'm willing to die on with them. And so, but they won't come on the show to explain themselves. So okay, but they got a grant from NASA. Anyway, a piddling, $1.5 million, but it's still they're selected as one of 7 NASA designated aerospace workforce hubs. How many entrepreneurial companies are they going to talk to when they're spending that grant money?
So there's some history here that makes me very frustrated. Yes, exactly. It's very frustrating. This whole thing.
Preach it, brother. What are you frustrated about?
So I was on the call when James Burke and the rest of the folks at the Mars Society were pitching to the second Trump administration's transition team. Greg Autry was one of them, and one of the people listening, and the Mars Society and Washington State both had a chance to make a pitch. And we're like, you know what we need? We need a center that doesn't need to be a full NASA center, but it needs to be a point where all of these organizations can come together and start talking. And we in the Pacific Northwest, with 72 space companies, need a space center, a point of reference, an entry point, local here, right? Because NASA Ames is the closest thing we have, and we're completely disconnected from that. So that was the pitch, and that happened in the earliest days just after the election. And it kind of rattled around wherever. And this nonsense document of 7 organizations, not Washington State, got $1.5 million workforce development grant. So somewhere along the line, a very good idea got diluted into nothing. And Space Florida naturally had to get one of those grants. I'm like, what a waste of time and money. Oh, I'm so frustrated by this. So
right.
That's
annex of the Center for Space Commerce is right here.
Right. Like,
ugh. We'd be happy to play a role.
So anyway, that whole thing is a mess. All right, moving on. We have nothing good to say about Space Florida's grant.
Yeah. Okay, so this company that's named after the Big Dipper, Ursa Major, went public in a $2.3 billion SPAC deal. They're a rocket engine supplier. They expanded into hypersonic weapons and solid rocket motors. Obviously, it's all military all the time, kind of contractor.
Yeah.
But it's just way to underscore that SPACs are back, and SPACs are back big time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, we've been talking about that before the show. Maybe we should try something, for our stuff, just to see what happens. If the hoops aren't too horrible.
I wonder, right? That first tranche of SPACs, there were some big losers, but there were some winners, right? And
yep, absolutely.
Michael Mealing's comment about SPACs go around the normal due diligence process and only the gullible fund SPACs, which, wow, that's a harsh sentence. But I do wonder how real that capability is, because I know at least 3 companies are considering going public soon.
Well, is this? You think this is just an area where, well, we learned our lessons from the first SPAC go around, and
that's what I'm thinking.
This time it's going to be different.
That's exactly what I think.
Most dangerous words of the English language.
Right.
It's different this time.
Right.
Right?
I do. I think that's exactly it. Like it might be actually different this time. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, moving on, because we got to go quick.
Moving on. Leo Labs, another space news thing that we can't read all the way.
Right.
But Leo Labs got a $20 million Space Force deal for what they call Scout Radar. It's a modified version of its Scout Radar and demonstrates the technology for a defense mission beyond its traditional use, tracking satellites and debris in orbit. And so that's what they do. And they got to deal with, there's a lot of Space Force money floating around out there, and they got to get a little of it. So good for them.
Okay, so Leo Labs is quite accomplished at tracking satellites and debris. They are really kind of a master class in how to do some of that stuff. I want to know what this piece right in the middle, beyond its traditional use, is that Golden Dome? Is that missile tracking? Is that air traffic control in a very tightly controlled box? What is this thing? I am very perplexed by
what they're seeing this thing sitting on a plateau overlooking mountains, and you think,
right?
Oh, they're for directing traffic in a war zone.
Right. I'm like,
that's
wow.
what I'm seeing when I see that picture.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, we don't know anything more about this article, but that's my guess.
Sean, they aren't tracking aliens.
They definitely are tracking
except
aliens.
Maybe by accident. Okay. There are 3 to go, and that we got to get that last one in because it's kind of wild. Yeah. But here's something: NASA is offering inflatable heat shields for small sats. And that just came out of the blue for me. There's a picture of it right there. And of course, this occurs wasn't the small sat conference this week?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yep. That does not look like a heat shield for a small sat. I was hoping it was going to be smaller than that.
It's called an inflatable decelerator.
I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who wants to fly, but they demand, it's a requirement that they get their hardware back because they need to inspect it, and you can't do it on orbit. So a really good idea to flight test some hardware just evaporated because of an inability to get it back home. So we're still looking around, but that's too big. What they're showing there,
too big. Yeah. Well, it's not too big when it's being packed in there. Once it inflates, you see, it gets.
No, dude, it's at least, even that inner ring is at least 1.5 meters across. Look at perspective with the people there. Yeah, that's too big. No. All right.
Okay, 2 things real quick. The Russians didn't let war stop them from developing new stuff. And so, of course, as we know from history, war always increases creativity in developing stuff.
Yes.
It has been since forever. And so they've got this thing. There's this company called the United Engine Corporation unveiled a mock-up of their first NK3 engine for the Voronezh ultralight launch vehicle. So so they're building this ultralight launch vehicle. It's supposed to really change how they do small sats and stuff like that. And I guess this company has developed an ultralight new engine to power them. So they're just trying to show, hey, we're doing something. But I had to put it out there. Now, here's the thing. Here's the kicker, the weird kicker of the day.
Yeah,
this is part of the what could
Yeah.
possibly go wrong
Right.
thing. And so a Polish startup, they're hired to protect data center satellites with high power microwave weapons. Now, what do they do? How close can you get to one of those things before it triggers the auto defense? Because you know it's an AI and a robot that's running this thing.
Right.
What kind of damage will it do? What happens if a crewed vehicle just happens nearby and gets a little too close on its way somewhere else?
Right.
You know, I'm thinking this could be an international incident to beat all international incidents.
We were only protecting it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Microwave popcorn in space. Sure. Yeah. Because you aim a little our way. I got the bag out there. Jiffy Pop. Let's go. Oh, yeah. Investing in self-defense.
All right. Let's do this next one and cut it.
Well, that was the last one. The next one is
mirrors.
That's not the one I wanted to data centers, but DVD. I know. Maybe it was the space mirror thing.
Yeah.
We can use this.
We wanted to talk to Michelle about space mirrors.
To bring in our guest. And our guest tonight is Michelle, LD Hanlon, Juris Doctor, PhD, space lawyer extraordinaire, brilliant teacher. And she's been here before. And she's great. And we've got all sorts of new questions in the area of space resource utilization, claims on space property, and something else that could happen if claims intersect. Mm-hmm. And I want to bring up that probability with her. Michelle, come on in.
Thanks. So thank you for the PhD. I do not have one.
I thought you had one. I'm sorry.
No, I went into a program and then I decided to write a book instead. So I do.
That was it.
Got big news because my book is going to be the first space law textbook that looks at space law from the perspective of commercial space.
Okay.
And it'll be published in January. So I know that I've been trying to get back on this show for a long time, but writing a book is really hard.
Oof, yeah, it is. No kidding. I didn't know about the book. Tell us more about that.
So
no, sorry. We got another audience. So origin story, background, how'd you get here? You know the drill.
Okay, Michelle Hanlon. I was a mergers and acquisitions attorney for 25 years. Was looking at a lot of sort of high-tech mergers. 11-year-old son wanted to mine asteroids and asked me if I could, figure out the law for him. And that got me right into space law. So I left corporate law, earned my LLM, became a space lawyer. And now I head the Air and Space Law program at Ole Miss University. And I'm also the co-founder of For All Moonkind, which is the only organization in the world that's focused on protecting cultural heritage in outer space, like the Apollo 11 lunar landing sites. And we are a permanent observer to the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. So we have a really fun perch watching how they don't make the sausage of space law at the UN.
Nice. All right. So what's your book? It's going to be a textbook for Ole Miss?
It's going to be a textbook through Lexis, which is a legal database.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, exactly. It'll be digital and it'll be hard copy. So it's intended to be sort of your space law shelf book if you are practicing law in a big law firm. And it is looking at all of the aspects of the Outer Space Treaty and the U.S. licensing to the extent that I can keep up with it. Really, my hope for this book is to give the commercial space industry sort of a guide to all of the gaps in space law that we can really harness to our advantage to make not only the commercial industry thrive responsibly, but also build the foundation for what we want in space from a legal standpoint as well. And yes, we need laws in space. I'm so sorry, everybody, but it is very hard to have relationships amongst companies unless you have some rules. And so I'm not suggesting we need far, volumes and volumes, but we do need something.
So we've talked before about lawfare. Am I understanding that this book is how to do lawfare from our perspective? Where are the gaps? And if this is a gap, this is what we want to. Wes is like, hey, Michelle, right on time.
I was just going to ask, where is
Wes? Right, where's our guy?
I thought you were burning up the wires for this one.
So what? Yeah, a little bit. So this is really about identifying the gaps, and then within those gaps, what should we be doing? Like a primer on what we should be doing next.
So I'm not going to put everything has to be very flexible. So I can't put in writing what we should be doing right now. Also because I put my pen down on September 16th and it's not published till January. So that's but these are the gaps. Keep them in mind. This is what other things that have happened in these gaps. And one of my biggest soapboxes now is China is very, very good at lawfare. It is, if you look at the way they have used the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea to support their claims in the South China Sea, how they've ignored everything. And we're talking, the UN close is like pages and pages and pages and pages. There's a lot of detail in there. Their space treaty is 17 articles. I mean, this is the biggest legal gray area in any domain we have ever seen. And I think commercial industry has a really, really, really important role in countering what China does. And it's not China bad, it's just China's different. And, they are strategically planning to own space, and we got to make sure we can get in there as well.
I'm going to just put Dallas's comment up. Exploit the gaps, not just mind the gaps, but exploit the gaps. So you can't say that as a professor, but I can say it as an entrepreneur who has a very specific target and destination. So I will say exploit the gaps. You don't have to say that. That's not your words.
So let's dive into some situational analysis. We got this article that from the news feed that it's all about. There's a big complaint. This company wants to put massive space mirrors. They can be 40 times brighter than the full moon, and it will create horrible light pollution and other situations. Reflect Orbital wants to do this. And people are screaming about this. Is it legal? What can be done? I mean, what if you don't want that stuff flying over your city and making it brighter at night?
So first of all, there's this big hullabaloo because they got a radio frequency license from the FCC. So as far as I know, they don't have a payload license yet, right? This is just and it's not the FCC's job to say, no, we don't think that's a good idea. The FCC's job is to protect the taxpayer. So the FCC says, well, Swarm, you can't go because you're too small. You're going to hit something. Reflect Orbital, if it is safe, if it's not going to create debris, it's not the FCC's job to say otherwise. And we know that this Supreme Court has made it very clear that it is not up to the agencies to make these decisions. It's up to Congress. So Congress can stop it. But they also have to go through an FAA payload review. Now, the FAA has the same bounds as the FCC. The FAA payload review is ridiculously simple. Are you going to explode when you get to space? No? Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's AST, and that's been our captive agency from day one, I think.
Yeah. So which is great. But so I sympathize a lot with the astronomers who are terrified of this and of all of the wildlife that could be harmed. But honestly, we're talking about one, practice. Let's just set it up and see what happens kind of thing. And we do have light pollution laws on Earth. We do have rules about keeping our dark skies dark. So you can have local rules about what is beamed down, presumably. Now, I say that, but then obviously Earth observation, I can't stop that satellite from going over my house and taking pictures of it.
Right.
And so this brings up this sort of whole new idea. It's more invasive than Earth observation. But we also have to think, I'm sorry, I'm going to support our industry and support the US government. It is really easy for environmental groups and astronomers to scream at us. What do you think they're doing in China? Do you think the astronomers in China are going to, kick and scream if China decides it's a good idea to have this kind of a equipment? So and you were talking about the spaceport. I have always been a member of Nature Conservancy. I'm a Teddy Roosevelt Republican. I say, I love wildlife, but if we had not developed and burn down some of our forests, we would still all be in poverty.
Yeah.
There is a balance to be found here. And so I really respect the people who are making this noise now, because we need to hear that.
Right.
But let's also remember that we need to find a balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If there was another location across the entire Gulf, they would have picked it, right? But every place that they want is either already used or already protected. There's no middle ground. It's not like they have just spare real estate just floating around. So yeah, I'm excited about it. 10 launch pads is a game changer for the world. I was talking to a kid this morning. He's 31 years old. That's not fair. I was talking to a guy this morning that's in the UK, and he wants to develop a sovereign rocket system. He's like, look at what SpaceX is doing. I'm like, you are starting from scratch and you want to compete against SpaceX? Like,
yeah,
that is Sisyphus with a big rock and a big hill. I'm not trying to be a jerk about that, but maybe pick something that's a little more attainable. And he's like, no, we need sovereignty in Europe. I'm like, do you actually? We talk about sovereignty in Europe all the time on this show, but I really wonder if they really have 10 active launch pads, how can you possibly beat that? How can anybody?
Especially when they're doing a launch from one pad every couple of days.
Yeah.
They just keep going up, maybe 2 in a day, depending on what stuff they're hauling up there for what purpose.
Well, and they're not going to shut down Florida. They're not shutting down California, and they're not shutting down their Texas pads. So what is that? They're going to have 15 pads available? Bonkers. It's bonkers. So yeah, I do think that they have to be careful. I do hope that they're better with the turtles than they were at in Texas, but hopefully there are good stewards that will point. I like that they're already arguing about this, because I think it will.
Absolutely. And also, I mean, SpaceX is, when the astronomers complained about the reflective properties of Starlink,
mm-hmm.
they didn't ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to
change
it. Yeah. So it is, there are a lot of constructive conversations to be had. And so let's just hope we can get to the constructive part after the sort of screaming back and forth. But yeah, I mean, and just to go back to Reflect Orbital, there is nothing. I mean, it's not against the law, and there's all sorts of things that as a lawyer I can be like, it's harmful interference, or but we're going to need to sort of put boundaries on that at some point. You can't do damage to Earth's environment. So I think there's an argument to be made. If you have 400 of those, you are doing tremendous damage to Earth's environment.
50,000. Their application is 60,000 satellites. Yeah.
So, but you know, at least we know about it, right? And now we can start thinking about it, and what should we be doing about it? You know, the United States is the only country in the world that bans obtrusive advertising from space. So I mean, we're already leaps and bounds ahead of, yeah. So
we have a rule. Wait, we have a rule against that? I was not aware of that. I was going to paint the moon with. I was going to paint the moon. We can't do that.
It's obtrusive advertising from space. If you can see it with the naked eye from Earth, then it's illegal.
We have a law against that.
Yep.
An actual went to Congress, got it signed law.
Yep.
Really? Who was the congressman or senator that's like, that's a problem. That's a problem we need to solve. Like, we don't need to worry about healthcare or anything else. What we really need to solve is advertising on the moon. Okay.
It's from orbit. This was long before orbit. So this was not wanting to see, you know, Coca-Cola screaming across the sky. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. I just don't want to have that in my face all the time.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by this stuff. Absolutely. I have an interesting question, a what if kind of conundrum I want to run past you, but I want to start with this. I want to reconfirm your thoughts on territorial claims. We can't actually legally make territorial claims, but you know that when, say, people from our civilization start landing on the lunar South Pole, they're going to want to say, we want to go be searching for water and doing other things in an area that's so big, it's in a circle like this, or it covers this area, and you're telling that to the world. And you can do that, I guess, without any legal repercussion.
I mean, you can do that. And then if somebody runs, let's say you put up a perimeter and you say, this is my perimeter, and somebody runs through it, you're really going to be hoping that the United States backs you up, right? I mean, and under the Artemis Accords, we do seem to have 70 nations that agree that we ought to be able to have some sort of safety zone, keep out zone, you know, notification and coordination zone. Article 12 of the Outer Space Treaty does think that there's going to be installations on the moon. And it actually allows you, if you have an installation, you have the right to exclude other parties from it. Because you only need to allow access on the basis of reciprocity. So,
So we have this situation near the lunar South Pole where Western civilization, for the euphemism for the United States and certain key allies, are have this set up. They have their perimeter set up. They've told everybody, we're looking for water ice, we're looking for certain minerals, and right? Now, China has a similar perimeter right nearby. And on the rubric of you can only control what you can actually defend, the Chinese decide to encroach around on that perimeter. And they start doing it a lot. And finally, the people at our base get a little upset about that, and they go out and actually, you know, confront in full spacesuit gear the Chinese guys and saying, "Look, you need to stop doing this. This is our perimeter. You're encroaching it, and regardless of what your position on the law is, we don't want you here. Please leave." And the situation is, the conversation gets a little heated. Things get a little hot. Push comes to shove, literally. And for whatever reason, however it happens, could be totally by accident, a missed shot or something. Not a shot by a bullet, but, you know, maybe a guy threw a rock just to say, I'm pissed, stop this now. He's going to hit the guy in the chest. Hits him in the faceplate instead, shatters his helmet, and the guy dies right there. Now what?
So, he's like a softball question. No big deal. Go ahead.
No. But I thought about this today. I thought it's all the thing. What about murder on the moon? Will the guy who did it have to retain Michelle Hanlon to defend him in an Earth court? I mean, what happens in a situation like that?
So
it could have been manslaughter. You could probably get him on manslaughter. He threw a rock and he missed. Okay.
This is really fascinating to me because the Outer Space Treaty doesn't imagine humans in space. doesn't talk. The only thing the Outer Space Treaty says about humans in space is astronauts are envoys of all humankind.
Yep.
And should be granted all rescue. If you see one in distress, you must rescue them.
Yep.
And then the moon and other celestial bodies shall be used exclusively for peaceful purposes, although you are allowed to have military equipment so long as it's for peaceful purposes. And so that's really one of the questions: is using some sort of policing the perimeter, is that a peaceful purpose? The Chinese are talking about putting robotic dogs up to help them, to keep their humans company. So are humans objects? Because we have all sorts of rules about if you do damage to another object, right? You're liable, and you have to compensate for that damage. So are humans objects? So if you and under the liability convention, if you're the one who launched that object into space, then you are liable for the damage that it does. So American astronaut is a U.S. space object, hits a Chinese astronaut who is an envoy of all humankind, but also a Chinese space object. So definitely there's liability to be, compensated there. Do you end up in a court? I mean, then there is international law applies to space. So, imagine if it's on. I mean, you can't have territories. It's not necessarily. I mean, it'd be easier if it were like they were inside the U.S.
Right.
Structure, right? Yeah.
Or something.
That would be vaguely important.
Yeah. But no,
now,
I mean, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned astronauts, and there's astronaut with a capital A and astronaut with a small a. There's going to be astronauts there probably at some parts of the base, but where a lot of the mining activity and stuff's going on, those guys aren't trained astronauts with a capital A. They're contractors, basically, like oil riggers or something. They're trained to do a job, miners, and they're sent there. And so it would be, I don't know how treaty obligations include people with a non-astronaut designation.
They don't. So the return and rescue agreement actually broadens the little bit, but it uses the words personnel of spacecraft. So your miner is not a personnel of spacecraft either, right. But at least it's a little bit broader, right? So no, we would before we get there, we should have some of these rules hammered out.
Well, I'm going to ask. So of course, Wes has a question. He was referencing the Artemis Accords and the 4 nations with national resource legislation. So, does it mean there's some kind of in situ property right can't evolve off planet for private citizens?
So I think there's 2 completely separate issues. I think that it is pretty well settled now. I think that the stream is flowing to, if you extract the resource, you can own it. Now, I will say the Chinese are saying if you extract the resource and use it for scientific purposes, that's fine. And we can see exactly where they're going down that path, right? Scientific purposes always should take precedence over commercial purposes. Of course, everything China does is for scientific purposes and for the benefit of all humanity. And so, nasty commercial company, we should have access before you because you're just going to try and make money from it. Right. But there is, once you extract the resource, it is pretty well recognized that you can use it, right? And we have the precedent from the Bridenstine RFP, that NASA will buy it in situ. The idea about whether somebody can claim territory, an individual, an entity instead of a state, is not settled. I think a lot of academic space lawyers would like it to be settled, but I don't think it is. As Wes well knows, the the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Article 17, states that every human has the right to own property. And how can we possibly lose that right when we get to space? When we talk about owning property, it's a natural thing.
That's a core tenet that Wes expresses constantly. Yeah.
Well, and so let me take it one step further. What does property mean to you? Property is the right to exclude. I don't want, I'm in my house right now. I don't want somebody to come in my house just because you have freedom of exploration and use of all celestial bodies, free access to all celestial bodies. there's got to be something. And people always say to me, well, we can follow the indigenous path of stewardship. Okay, I've talked to a lot of individuals from indigenous communities, and indigenous communities in the United States certainly were pretty nasty to each other when somebody climbed into their land that they were stewarding.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and when I went to the Native American History Museum, and there's a plaque there that says the Indians, the indigenous community felt very strongly, Native Americans felt that their property had been taken from them by the colonists. Their property had been taken, and that the only reason that happened is because they had a different way of securing their property. They didn't do it with deeds. They did it through more traditional methods.
Yep.
So there's no maybe I have not studied the Aboriginal communities in Australia. Maybe they really do steward the land, but there is no example of a human who literally opens his or her house up to the entire community. Everybody has a space. Everyone's going to need a space.
Yep. I love that. I was going to ask another property rights question, but I wanted to check in about, you've got a new program starting at the school. I want to make sure that we cover that a little bit. What's the new program? What's it for? Who's it for? Has it started yet? I think it was going to start.
It started this week. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for remembering. Yeah.
I knew it was soon. I didn't realize it was this week because it's the new school year. All right. So tell me about that. What's going on there?
It's my way to indoctrinate my views on property law into the entire community. No, so it's very exciting. It's a Master of Science in Air and Space Law. So you don't need a law degree, and it's 15 courses. I think we have 8 core courses, and then the other 7 you can sort of pick and choose. We've got a lot of air law, drone law, sort of where these gaps are, and space law. And our first cohort is 32 students, and we started this week. It's online, asynchronous, and it's been really, really fun to put together because we actually worked with a design. We paid a lot of money for a design firm to help us build these out. And so this isn't just Michelle Hanlon throwing up some PowerPoints and being like, look, listen to me. We worked really hard. The classes are all 7 weeks long, 2 credits. And it's it's hard, it's intensive. We did that on purpose because this is a real opportunity, we think, to, in the UN speak, it's build capacity in space law. Because, and it goes right back to the beginning of the program, it's so important for commercial space industry to understand the law and understand where the gaps are. We don't have we are the most robust regulatory process in the world when it comes to launch and even payload, right? But there's still so many gaps, and the FAA, the FCC, the Office of Space Commerce, they need help. There's not a lot of people working in those jobs, and it would be really helpful to them if when you went to the Office of Space Commerce and said, hey, I want to be one of the first people to get this certificate. This is how I see it working through international law. This is how I see the United States meeting its Article 6 obligations. It's a lot more helpful than, hey, here I am, I want to do this, help me, right?
That's how I feel all the time. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So 32 people, class just started. What's the price tag, and when does the next class start? And
so we start in August and in January. So the next time you can apply to start in January. It's just it's hovering at 20,000 for the entire program.
Wow, that's great.
You can, yeah. Oh no, I mean, this is one of the beauties of being in Mississippi. We are not an expensive state. And our overhead is not that high. So we are able to offer, and we have, in addition to myself, wonderful teacher, we have amazing experts, subject matter experts in public air law, in cybersecurity law, in telecommunications law, export control laws, procurement law. So all of the things to really get to understand both the air and the space environment. And so we're excited because, look, this is the future. You know, if you're not even in a space adjacent industry right now, you will be in 5 years. You will have to understand that you're getting your data from an Earth observation satellite. You will have to understand that maybe you're actually using AI that's based on a satellite. You're going to need to understand, your rights vis-a-vis Starlink and so forth and so on. It is a part of our infrastructure. It's just our reliance on it is going to grow. And if you don't understand the domain, how it's constructed, how the legal framework is built around it, then you're going to be lost.
We're working with a group. Tom and Sean gave a presentation to them out in Japan. I'm not going to name them, but they're a large $7 billion organization, 25,000 people. They do material sciences. They don't have a single thing qualified for space, not a single product of a $7 billion industry line. And they came to us asking questions about space because they're like, what is this thing? What's it for? How are we going to do it? That's moving 25,000 people into this new industry because they're exploring whether or not they can build a product line for this new global effort. That's exactly what you're talking about, right? People that don't necessarily know space right now will have to know space in 5 years. They will have to.
In order to survive. Absolutely. Yeah. Business, law, whatever, industry. Yeah.
Well,
it's the money is there. The money's going to be pouring out. I don't know about SPAC, whatever, but everything is trending. All the, Deloitte, Goldman,
right.
that is where the money's going to be, and that is where the money's going to be made. We're not going to get the first billionaire from an asteroid, probably in my lifetime, but that is the way this is projecting.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope so too. Yeah.
I hope you're wrong, but I get your point. All right. Well, you kind of teed yourself up for a the 5 years and 25 years. You kind of answered the 5 years, but do you want to add anything more to it? We only have 3 minutes, so 5 years and 25 years. Go.
So 5 years from now, the commercial space industry in the United States is going to be populated with people who earn their master's from or their law degree from Mississippi. No doubt, Mississippi is going to rise. And in 25 years, I will still be peppy enough to be a lunar tourist and not get close to Apollo, but at least touch the surface of the moon.
Excellent. Nice.
Okay. Look, I have to circle back to the thing we talked about before because there's one answer I'm not satisfied with yet. And that is very quickly. What happens to the guy who killed the other guy on the moon? Because I saw the scenario. He comes back to his habitat, and Michelle Hanlon just happens to be there on a holiday visit.
Sure.
And the Chinese are already screaming furiously at the UN and everybody, saying, "We want this guy extradited to be tried for murder under Chinese law."
Absolutely
and
not.
Now you've got a murder defendant on your hands.
My argument would be the Chinese themselves are not showing due regard for the activities of our base, our perimeter. And this is an unfortunate accident, but they should not have been there in the first place so it is actually the Chinese who violated that Article 9 obligation under the Outer Space Treaty that caused all the problems.
Okay, where would this be argued then? In the World Court or some other body?
So the International Court of Justice right now is where these things would be.
All right, cool. I just want to know. I should write a story about this. I think this should be interesting. I'll consult you on that, and you can tell me where I go wrong.
I would. Okay. And if you ever need a lawyer to do anything in space, due diligence, give me a call.
I want you. We're going to close off here in a second, but I want you to stick around for a minute after the show, please.
Yep. Okay. All right. And on that, yes. Michelle Hanlon, lawyer extraordinaire for space and a lot of other things. It's always a joy to have you. I hope we get to do it a lot more.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. Always. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Wow. You could always go another half hour with her easily. It was just amazing. Just amazing to have her. Okay. On Monday, someone hasn't been on in a while. Troy Morris from Cal Morris. We'll be a partner, obviously. He returns to the program to give us the latest in the field of space debris mitigation, which is what they do.
He's been having a good month.
That they seem to be having a good month. Yeah, they're doing real great. Cool. And I'm glad they took part in our BPC in Paris in 22. That's why I first met them. And so, yeah, I love to see a success, and we're going to hear all about it this coming Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And for Michael Laine and Sean Key, I remain Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies. You won't see advertising.